So ordinarily, notional promotion is no longer encouraged in Federal Civil Service Commission. Again, we have conversion promotion from one cadre to another. You can be converted from the administrative cadre, from the executive cadre to the administrative cadre. Now, but in this kind of conversion, an individual, the officer must have certificates, must have qualifications, additional qualifications. Let's assume you came into the service as an executive officer with your HND, or as the case may be. As time went by, you were able to acquire other certificates to back up the HND. Yes, you could be converted from executive cadre to administrative cadre, provided you have those certificates needed by the administrative cadre. You could be converted. It's also known as promotion. It's conversion and promotion. Then we also have the advancement promotion. This advancement promotion is the commonest promotion in civil service. This advancement promotion is about moving from a lower grade level to a higher grade level with responsibility, higher salary based on merit. In this advancement, it's always vertical. It's always vertical. It must be merit based. It must have responsibility to take care of performance qualifications. It involves examinations, interviews, and assessments. And this advancement can be further divided into vertical movement. What mean vertical? It's like climbing up the ladder. It can also mean horizontal. That is moving to different row. You are in the same level, grade level, but you are moving to different row entirely. Then it could be diagonal, which means going up, which means you are progressing upwards in terms of grade level, and you're also changing roles. That one comes with more responsibility. You are changing role and you're also going upwards. So those are the different types of promotions that are common in Federal Civil Service. Now, we can just look then on the slide that we will have after the types of promotion in civil service. We have what we call leaving the service. It's expected that when an officer gets to the apex, definitely you will leave. Nothing lasts forever. When you get to the climax of your career, a time comes when you bow out of office. It all depends whichever methods you are, which of the methods that are enshrined in the law that you are using to bow out of office. But definitely, nothing lasts forever. In the course of your career, in the course of you climbing the ladder, in the course of you growing in the service, in the course of career progression wise, a time comes when you will be asked, or not, you cannot, not sometimes you're not asked. Then if everything is for you, may not be asked to leave the service, but you will just retire out of the service. So we shall look at what leaving the service is and ways through which people can leave the service. At this point in time, we want to take a pause. We'll go for a minute break. Go nowhere. Tune to this channel. Just grab your coffee, sit back, hold tight. Let's go for this break and come back. From the slide there, we're going to look at leaving the service, what it is in leaving the service. I've said before, as a civil servant or as an officer, there is a time where you get to the peak of your career, you're expected to bow out of service. Definitely, it must always come. It may be either way, whatever way it comes, you must always bow out of service. So we're going to look at what is leaving the service. Leaving the service simply means a formal agreement, in a kind of a process of ending any formal agreement between an employee and an employer. There are different ways which this formal agreement is being done. But this agreement shall be based on appointment. Of course, you must be appointed first before you leave the service. When there is no appointment, we cannot be talking about leaving the service. There are different agreements that an officer or the employer and the employee, they carry out. But in this case, we are talking about leaving the service. We're talking about leaving the service. Now, what are the ways through which an individual can leave the service? However, before this happens, it is expected that the officer must have grown career-wise, career-wise, either in private sector or in public sector, whichever ones that comes, the individual must have go career-wise. Now let's look at ways through which individual leaves the service. But before an individual leaves the service as an officer, whether in private or in public sector, it is always advised you consider the implications. I am 10 years in service, I want to leave. Why am I leaving? Where am I going to? You consider the implications. Will there be benefit? Will there be no benefit? You consider the implications before you want to leave the service. Now let's look at the ways through which an officer or officers can leave the service. First, we have termination during probationary period. Yes, when you talk about probationary period, as an officer, when you are employed in the service, you are expected to spend a certain minimum amount of time. It could be months, it could be years, before you are confirmed into a particular position. You are expected to do that. Now, in the course of a probationary period, as a newly employed officer, there could be termination of your appointment. That termination could be voluntary from an individual. You could, please, I'm tired working with the government or with your employer. You don't want to continue working with them again, you want to leave. Or the termination may be as a result of incompetence from the side of the officer. Once it is established that the officer is not competent to carry out his responsibilities or our responsibilities, the officer's appointment will be terminated forthwith. When this appointment is being terminated, the officer is informed a month before the termination commences. And as such, when the officer is leaving, the officer is given transport allowance to where he or she is coming from alongside his family, his former place before he came to join the service. So he's given a kind of a transport fare. In any case, if the termination is about you as an individual, you don't want to, as a kind of a voluntary thing, you want to leave the service, it is the reverse. Things you've acquired in the course of that time, you're expected to refund back, because people do it. They don't even tell the government, they just go find their way, they go away. They abscond. They just abscond. They do it. Anyway, it's one of the ways through people leave the service. Then we talked about the second one is relinquishment. Relinquishment. I want to relinquish, which is voluntary now, coming from the individual. You want to relinquish. Now, when we talk about, let me go back to the previous one, which is termination of appointment. The first one we talked about. There could be cases where an officer is not under probationary period. He or she has gone past the probationary period, but the office is about to undergo what we call rejigging. That's what they call rejigging. We had some agencies of government that did that, like NITEL, NEPA, and they could not longer, the organization could no longer carry on because of one thing or the other, and as such, they had to terminate the services of their employees. Now, in that case, those officers were given what we call full right benefits as well as their pension. They were given full right benefits. While they were confirmed, they had gone past the professional stage, they were confirmed, they had spent certain minimum amount of years required for an officer to enjoy benefits, pension benefits. So they were granted full benefit as at when their termination letter or whatever came to them. The second one we're talking about is relinquishment. That is voluntary. On your own, you can voluntarily resign. Man, I'm done. I'm no longer enjoying this. I want to leave the service. It depends on the number of years again you've spent. If you've put in such a number of years, you can leave and still get your benefits. But if you relinquish your service in the course of a probationary period, it is not possible for you to get any benefit from the government. Then again, another way of leaving the service is failure to secure confirmation. In the law, it is stated there that if an officer fails confirmation exam 3 consecutive times, he or she will be advised to leave the service. A situation where you cannot pass your confirmation exam, you will leave the service. The other way of leaving the service is failure to secure promotion in the course of writing 3 consecutive promotion exam or absent from promotion exam. Some officers are so smart. They want to however, before now it was not there. It was something that was reviewed recently and became part of the law. That when an officer absconds for 3 consecutive years without writing an exam, it is assumed that that officer has left the service. Abscondment is also a way of leaving the service. So such officer has left the service. However, when we start talking about pension and the benefits, we'll also get there. For a number of years spent, if the officer is no longer seen, it is assumed that that officer has absconded, and as such, pension and other rights will be treated according to Pension Reform Act of 2014. If such officer deserves any benefit, fine and good. If he does not, same goes for the officer. Then the next way of leaving the service is mandatory retirement. Mandatory retirement in this case, civil service will say, as a civil servant, when you are 60 years of age, you leave the service, or if you have spent 35 years in service, you leave the service. However, in some agencies of government like the education sector and the judiciary, the university is 65 years for the professors, while the judiciary is not 60. I think it's 70 years for the judiciary, the judges. The older the wine, the better, or as the case may be. So theirs is, anyway, there is ongoing agitation that the number of years for service officers should be increased as well. Anyway, that is a story for another day. Then for director generals and permanent secretaries, once you are director general, even if you are not up to 60 years or you have not put in 35 years in service and you've been a director for 8 years, you will leave the service. Once you are 8 years as a director or as a PS, you have spent 8 years as a PS, yet you are not up to 60, nor have you spent 35 years in service, you'll be advised to leave the service, you bow out of service. That is another way of leaving the service. Then again, another way of leaving the service is disability. When somebody becomes invalidated, incapacitated, like an officer who falls sick and can no longer carry out his duties or his responsibilities, the officer is advised to resign. Such resign is due to his disability or his inability to carry out his responsibility. Then lastly, here we'll talk about death. It's inevitable. We've seen situations where civil servants, though they've not gotten to either the mandatory retirement stage or the voluntary or whichever one, death could also be a way through civil servants or an officer can leave the service. So if you see from the ways through which civil officers can leave the service, we've listed no less than 7 ways or 8 ways through which an officer can leave the service. In any case, when an officer is leaving the service on certain grounds, it is expected that that officer should be awarded what we call certificate of service. You are leaving the service, you should be awarded a kind of what we call certificate of service. Most of us will pass through schools, secondary, university. When you are leaving, they give you what they call testimonial. It's a kind of a certificate or a document to show that your antecedent while you were in school, your conduct while you were in school, this guy was good, they blah 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 blah. You just have it there. Now, when you are leaving at any point in time in service, you are giving certificate of service. However, it is not in all conditions that they give certificate of service. A situation where an officer is being dismissed outrightly, because according to the law, when you are dismissed, your dismissal starts there, right? Because one of the reasons for giving you certificate of service, perhaps you may have other things you want to do. You want to go into private sector, you want to go into other jobs, you want to even leave the country, immigration, or you want to serve as a reference to, you understand? Those are reasons why certificate of service are really needed. You are handed certificate of service. Now, what is certificate of service? It's a document issued to an employee by an employer at the end of service upon either retirement or resignation, anyone that comes first, showing the records or history of the officer while he or she was in service. It tells, it illustrates what the officer has done while he or she is in service. Now, the certificate of service is further divided into 2 in civil service in Nigeria, civil service in Nigeria. The first one is called Form Gen 58A, while the second one is called Form Gen 58. Both of them are forms through which this certificate of service is being documented. In that certificate of service, you see name of the officer, you see the employer's name, You see the signature of the authorized signature of the employer, the history, what the individual has done in the course of service. Now, for grade level 7 above, which is the senior officers, their certificate of service is being recorded in what we call Form Gen 58. It is countersigned by the PS of the line agency and the PS from Federal Civil Service Commission. Those are the people that countersign for officers on grade level 7 and above. While for officers on grade level 6 below, which are the junior officers, it's being countersigned by the PS or the Director General of the line agency and the PS of CMO, Career Management Office, at the Office of the Head of Civil Service of the Federation. That is how it is being documented for those at that level. Now, as we said before, certificate of service ordinarily is awarded to any officer leaving the service, showing what he or she has done in the course of service. In case or while the officer is out there going to look out for other things, he could use that as a kind of, okay, I had worked in social place for so years. These are my records. They are clean. Can I have an employment here? I'll say, okay, looking at your service of record, you've done well. Okay, we can give you employment. But without that, as a civil servant, in any case, as a civil servant, once you are bowing out of office, your certificate of service is already prepared for you. Oh God, this is your, or madam, this is your certificate. It's already prepared for you. Just in case you want to pursue other career in your future life. That is that for certificate of service. Now, you can see from the slide or from the board, we've been able to extract today in today's class the objectives of what we have, the meaning of promotion, importance and need for promotion, procedures for promotion, eligibility, types of promotion, leaving the service, ways of leaving the service, and certificate of service. Now, as a civil servant, don't forget, as a civil servant, the civil service in Nigeria has gone digital. Take it or leave it. It may not have come to your doorstep, but in no time, it will meet you at your doorstep. As a civil servant, what you normally see in the course of a promotion exam, they are computer based. It's a kind of a multiple choice Q&A, a multiple choice question and answer, where you see what is that, what is that, what is that, and what is that. So you could come across a situation where, as a civil servant, you are asked, one of the following is not, and it's not a condition to be considered for promotion. Okay, thank you guys. We've formally come to the end of today's class. Uh, we hope and believe that you've enjoyed the section, and we want you to subscribe to our channel and keep watching. More and more of this will be coming, as well as multiple Q&As for those of us that will be sitting for exams. The video is quite loaded for those of us that will be sitting for exams, heavily loaded for those of us that will be sitting for exams. You have more and more Q&As coming up after in every class that will be holding. Thank you guys for listening, and see you same time